Let's apply to Corban University. We'll start on the Oregon Goes to College website. From the College Info menu tab, choose Apply to College. That takes us to a page that has a lot of really good information to help us prepare for the process of applying, including providing some lists of documents or materials that we may need to gather and have ready to go when we sit down to apply, and some tips to help us be successful when we do that. Now, we know that today we're sitting down to apply to Corban University. We've gathered our materials, and that includes knowing that Corban requires a statement of faith, and we've written that statement. We have it ready to copy and paste directly into the application when the time comes to do so. And so we'll scroll down to the table that has a list of all of Oregon's colleges, and we'll choose the independent not-for-profit universities and find Corban on the list. Now, we do want to make a note that there is an application fee to apply, and so we'll need to make sure that we are prepared to do that or to request a fee waiver if one is available and we qualify for it. And then we'll go ahead and click on the link for Corban. And that will take us directly to the university's website and give us an opportunity to begin the application process. Now, there are some steps that we need to take, and the first one is to submit the application. We'll work on that. And then it's going to ask us to submit supplemental items. And that is going to include making sure that we're sending official test scores and transcripts to the university. And we'll start by Apply Now. So the first question they want to know is, what are we applying for? Are we applying to be an undergraduate student? And the answer is yes. This is if we're a high school student or the first time that we are entering college or have not yet earned a bachelor's degree. We are an undergraduate, and so we'll say yes. And they're interested in knowing whether we are somebody who is planning to take classes while we're still in high school, and for me the answer is no. Here's a question about whether we're a transfer student, and so this is a question about credit that we've earned, college credit that we've earned after graduating from high school. So if you've earned some credits while you were in high school, the answer for you is going to be no. A yes answer is only if you earned those college credits after you graduated from high school. And then this is a question about whether we're planning to do their online program or their on-campus classes. And this is sort of thinking outside of the realm of COVID and what the options are there. What is your ideal? Do you want to be an online student exclusively, or are you hoping to be able to attend classes on campus? And so you'll make that choice. And then they want to know whether or not we've enrolled in that program at Corban before. And for me, the answer is no. So now they're going to ask information about who we are. And so we're going to provide our name, and this, we want to make sure that we're providing our legal name. So this is the name that is on official documents like transcripts, a driver's license if we have one, a birth certificate, for example, and an email address. Now, this is the email address that we're using for all of our college materials, and it's the one that we are checking on a regular basis, at least a couple of times a week, so that we can stay on top of our college work. And then a phone number. So they also want to know whether or not it's okay to text you, and if a college typically would do that for reminders about your application or interesting things going on that they think you might want to know about, reminders of deadlines, that sort of thing. For Corban, if we click this, they're going to actually send us a text message now, and we'll need to enter that code and click verify in order for them to know that they've gotten your number correctly. So if you don't happen to have your phone with you as you're applying, you can just leave that unchecked. Then you'll provide your address. The first line is the street address, and the second line is usually your apartment number if you have one, and then you can choose your city, your state, and your zip code. After we've provided contact information, they're interested in knowing when we plan to enroll or show up on campus to take classes. And so I plan to graduate in June of 2021, and that means that I would like to start college in the fall of 2021. So I will choose that and click submit. Now this is letting me know that I have started my application, and I'm going to get a new window where I can finish my application. And so this might happen to you, that you are blocked from pop-ups, and if that's the case, you can just do what I'm doing here, click on options and allow pop-ups. But it might be that your application just shows up in a new window. Either way, it's going to look like this, and the first thing that they want to do is make sure that we have verified our email address. They're going to send us an email, and we're going to need to do something with that. So come up to our email here, and I do have an email from Corban, and so I will click on that. It's going to ask me to click here to verify my email address. And so I go ahead and do that, and now they have me in their system and we're ready to go. So we can go back to the application. It's asking me to add a phone number to receive text messages. So I provided that phone number before, but let's try again and say add number there. They are asking me to provide a code. Again, I don't have that, so I'm going to go ahead and leave that blank now, but you can go ahead and do that if you have your phone with you. Now they're interested in knowing my date of birth, and it's a good idea to enter that in month, date, and year format. Okay, and then we will choose to answer the additional questions. Now, I want to point out that in this application, anything that has a red asterisk or star is going to be required. Things that don't are not required. So, for example, we were required to provide our date of birth in order to move on, but we are not required to provide gender. Nickname, this is an opportunity to provide the name that we want to be called. And other or previous names used, this is if we have ever been called something else. If we've ever had a different legal name, so maybe if you were adopted or some other reason that you maybe used a different name, you'll want to provide those here. And the reason for that is so that they can connect all the information that comes in about you and your application. In case other people use your other names, they know that they can connect those to each other. Now they're looking to know, what are you interested in studying? And so we can scroll through this list to see what is available. And of course, we already know what we're interested in when we have made the decision to apply to Corban, or know what they offer. And I have a number of different interests here, but I really don't know. I have so many different interests that I'm not quite sure yet. So I'm going to choose undecided, and that is okay to do. It is also okay to choose the interest that you know you're super excited about. And now where we are a citizen, so choose that country for yourself. And race and ethnic information is optional. I'm going to choose to answer those questions. You can choose to answer them or leave them blank if you like. So I'm going to choose that for me. Now they want to know some information about our family. And they're wondering first if either of our parents attended college. This is to find out whether or not you might be a first-generation college student, so the first in your family to go. For me, neither of my parents attended college, so I'll go ahead and say no. And they want to know about our parents' names. And so for me, I'm going to provide information about my mom, and I'm going to enter that information here along with her phone number. And they want to know whether or not it's possible to text, or it's okay to text a parent's phone number. Talk to your parent before you decide that that is an okay thing to do. And I'm going to go ahead and say no. My mom doesn't really like to get text messages, so we're going to say no, but you might say yes, but talk to your parents first. And then their email address. So colleges are interested in being able to talk with or communicate with family members. And so that's why they're asking about phone numbers and email. They want to make sure that they get the information that you have. Now, this question about your parents' address, you only need to complete this if it is a different address than your own. And for me, I live with my mother. The information is the same, so I'm not going to fill this out. But if you have provided a name of a parent or guardian who does not live at the same address as you, you'll want to provide their address here. Same here, if you have a second parent or guardian who you would like to share information about, you can do that, but as you notice, there's no red star or asterisk, and you don't have to fill out a second parent or guardian if you don't want to or have one to fill it out for. And that's the case for me, so I'm going to leave it blank and scroll past all of these. And then we get to information about our own education. And so these are questions related to high school. So graduation year. They want to know my GPA up to this point, so I can provide that, and the high school that I attend. And as I fill this out, yep, so they've got that. Wondering whether or not I've been homeschooled. The answer for me is no. What city is my high school in, and what state? And then wondering whether or not we've ever taken any college credits. So if you've taken college credits while you were in high school, this is where you would want to go ahead and say yes. But for me, the answer is no. And so we'll say no here. And so there are a few different ways that we can, or a few different things that we can submit to Corban for our application. And so we've provided our GPA already, and we need to provide one of these three things: either test scores, an admission essay, or an academic reference. And so this is a reference letter from a teacher who has taught us recently. And so we get to make a choice. We don't have to submit all of these. We just need to choose one. And in fact, they're going to ask us which one we want to choose. So we can submit either ACT, CLT, or SAT test scores, again, the admissions essay, or an academic reference. And for me, I'm going to choose academic reference, but you'll want to choose the one that makes the most sense for you, and leave blank the other sections. And so I did not choose test scores, so I'm not going to report those scores here. I'm going to leave that blank. I also did not choose an admissions essay, but if you did, you will have hopefully already known what those essays were and written your answers, and you need to write the answers to all three of these questions, and they are looking for you to have a file saved on your computer and drag and drop that, or open this and choose the file. So in this case, you'll need to make sure that you have a file that you can share. And I chose academic reference, and so I'm going to go ahead and enter the email address of the teacher that I'm going to ask to do that. And so I've made a choice that I'm going to ask my teacher, Mrs. Smith, and I've entered her email address, and I can write a note to her. So they're going to send an email to her, and I can include a note. And I'm going to do that. And we can click send, and it will send that information to let her know that that's what she's going to need to do on my behalf. And I've already talked to her about that, so she knows that's coming. And then they want to know what kinds of activities have I been involved in high school, and so I can click through the ones that were true for me. And if I had an other, they want to know what that was, and for me that was community service, and so I'm going to type that in. You'll do the same. Now they are going to ask some additional questions so that they are able to just connect some information to us. So for example, if we're interested in campus housing, we need to let them know so that they can make sure that we get all of the information we need about that. Same with financial aid, and if we have any connections to the military and have access to military education benefits. Do we plan on using them? For me, the answer is no. It might be yes. So this question about accommodations, if you have, for example, a learning difference or something of that sort that you will need some special accommodations, you'll want to let them know that, and then you can provide what that information is here. And so these are some suggestions or options that you might need additional accommodations with. So I'm going to go ahead and say no, but for you, you'll want to say yes if that is true for you. This next set of questions are about your faith. Corban is a Christian university, and so does ask some questions related to your religious background and your current beliefs in order to understand how you might fit into the community. And so the first question that they're asking is what church you attend. So if you attend a church, they're interested in knowing what church that is. That is not a required question, so you don't have to fill it out. However, the denomination that you subscribe to is required, and so you'll want to scroll through and find the answer that is true for you. And that could include preferring not to answer, for example. So, but you will need to respond to this question with an answer. And so we'll go ahead and do that here. And then they're going to ask some questions about the statement of faith. And you'll want to make sure that you read through the statement of faith. This information here is letting you know that they do have a statement of faith and they don't require that all students are in agreement with it, but that you are familiar with it. And so it's important that as you're applying, you have read it, you understand what it says, and that it is something that while you don't have to agree with it, you do need to be familiar with it. It is also required that you have a personal relationship with Jesus Christ, and so they're asking you to provide information about your relationship there. Now, for each of these questions, you have the opportunity to, you must answer them. Again, red asterisk, you must answer them. But you have the opportunity to answer yes, no, or that you're unsure as you go through. And so you can make those choices and answer as is appropriate for you and your answer. So again, yes, no, or unsure, and you can make those choices. You'll want to read through each of these and make sure that you understand them and that you are answering them appropriately. And so you'll read through, make sure that you understand, and then answer appropriately. Now they're going to ask you for your own spiritual journey or your own statement of your relationship. And so this is something that we knew was coming and made sure that we had already written ahead of time. So we're going to go ahead and go to that, copy our response, and paste our response into the box there, and then move on. We also are going to be required to provide a Christian character reference, and so this is somebody who can speak to our spiritual development in a reference letter, and they want to make sure that it is not going to be a relative. So this is somebody who is unrelated to you by family, somebody who's not in your family but who understands your spiritual development. And so you'll go ahead and provide that person's name here and how you know them and their email address. Again, you'll want to make sure that you have talked to this person prior to submitting your application so that they know that they are going to be doing this for you. You've asked them to do it for you. They've agreed to do it for you, and they know that as you're going through. They also want that person's phone number. And Corban does also have a lifestyle agreement that you will be asked to agree to when you submit your application, and that you would live by if you were to choose to attend Corban. And so you'll want to make sure that you read through this and answer questions appropriately. And so again, these are required questions, and so you'll make sure that you are answering them and you're answering them honestly. If you were to answer yes to this question, then you're going to need to provide an explanation. So if you're currently struggling with any of those lifestyle issues listed above, you'll want to make sure that you provide an explanation of what that means for you. They're also interested in knowing if you have ever had any convictions for misdemeanor or felony, and you'll want to answer yes or no. Now, it's important that you answer honestly in all parts of the application, but particularly around these issues. You want to make sure that you provide the correctly true answer. So it may not mean that you will not be admitted if you answer yes, but if you answer no and the truth is yes, it is almost certain that you will not be admitted. So the most important thing here is to be honest. And if you do answer yes, then you'll again want to provide an explanation. Then you have some additional pieces where you're being asked to make some certifications. So basically, these are the questions or the opportunity for you to say that you are being honest, that you are being accurate, and that you will not be able to make any changes once you submit unless, for example, you contact the admissions office directly. And so for each of these certifications, what you're going to want to do is read, make sure that you understand, and then can go ahead and say yes to that. But don't mark yes until you've read and understand what you are saying yes to. And then you have the opportunity to share any additional information. So if you have that, you will go ahead and add it here. And then you will type your name, type the date, and when you click submit, you are done. You've applied to Corban. Congratulations.